Director, the system's under attack. We can't stop it. How bad is it? The attackers are too advanced. Our defenses are crumbling. We'll lose everything in 6 hours if we don't act. Who can help us then? Only one person can crack this, but we've been ignoring him all along. Lucas. Lucas? A 5-year-old? How is he supposed to fix this? He already has. We've been underestimating him for far too long. Get him in here now. Even if it means risking everything? Yes, it's time we saw what he can do. Talent doesn't come with a title or a degree, mutters Dr. Arlen, the head of cybersecurity at the Institute, his gaze fixed on the screen. His words, barely a whisper, hang in the air like a challenge. Frustration lines his face as he scans the complex lines of code that continue to elude him. His team, some of the brightest minds in the field, works tirelessly around him, yet the system bug remains unfixed. They've tried every approach, every workaround, but the solution slips through their fingers like sand. There's something deeper beneath Dr. Arlen's words, a truth he's reluctant to fully acknowledge. Could it be that the key to solving this problem lies outside the walls of their prestigious institution? Could the answer they seek not be found in years of academic credentials or towering experience, but in an entirely different kind of brilliance? For the first time, the notion that maybe they've been looking in the wrong places begins to creep into his thoughts. As the room hums with the sound of frantic typing and the ticking of the clock, Dr. Arlen's mind races. The tension in the air is palpable. He notices Michaela, his assistant, standing in the doorway with a report in her hands. The weight of the situation is heavy on her face. She hesitates before walking over, the report clutched tightly in her fingers. We need someone, anyone, who can crack this, she says, her voice low yet urgent, the truth of her words cutting through the room. If we fail, it's over for all of us. The words hit harder than they're meant to. The room falls into an uncomfortable silence. No one moves. No one speaks. The gravity of the situation settles over them like a thick fog. Dr. Arlen's mind races, but his hands remain frozen on the keyboard. He knows Michaela is right. The Institute's future, their careers, and perhaps even their very reputations depend on the success of this one system. They've reached a breaking point, and the reality of failure feels inevitable. In this moment, the unspoken question lingers in the air. Could the solution come from the most unexpected place? Could the brilliance they need come not from a room full of experts, but from someone or something completely outside their realm of understanding? In a modest apartment on the outskirts of town, Lucas Wren, a 5-year-old boy, sits cross-legged in front of his old, battered computer. The screen flickers with the colors of a complex puzzle game, and his small fingers dance effortlessly across the keys, manipulating the pieces with a precision that defies his age. To anyone else, it might seem like a mere child's game, but to Lucas, it's a world he can control, a world where he's the master of everything. His intense concentration, his complete immersion in the task at hand, reveals a sharp, unparalleled intellect that seems to come naturally to him. His mother, Clara, sits at a cluttered desk in the corner of the room, papers strewn everywhere, research notes, scientific journals, and the remnants of failed experiments. She runs a tired hand through her hair, sighing as she looks over the data in front of her. The glow from her own computer screen flickers back at her, but her eyes are glazed, struggling to make sense of the information. The demands of her job as a researcher at the prestigious university weigh heavily on her shoulders. Clara had long been considered a rising star in her field, but the pressure to maintain that status has only grown with each passing year. As a single mother, the balance between career and family feels like an impossible feat, and despite her qualifications and hard work, she often feels invisible, overshadowed by the more established names in the field. Clara's gaze shifts toward her son. She watches Lucas for a moment, admiring how effortlessly he solves the puzzle on the screen. The game, designed for children much older than him, is no match for his skills. Each piece falls into place with a few swift clicks, and within seconds, he's completed a challenge that would take most adults much longer. Clara leans back in her chair, watching in awe. She's been so focused on her own struggles, but there's something about Lucas's natural talent that stops her in her tracks. His ability to solve problems, his sharp mind, it's as if it all comes so easily to him. How do you do it? She muses aloud, her voice filled with both admiration and a touch of disbelief. Lucas looks up from the screen, his bright blue eyes locking with hers. A grin spreads across his face, one of pure joy and pride. I just think about it, and it works, he says matter-of-factly. Clara smiles softly, her heart swelling with love for her son. He's so full of potential, so naturally gifted, and yet she wonders how long it will be before the world sees him for what he truly is. She doesn't speak the thought aloud, but deep down, she can't help but feel a pang of frustration. It's as if her entire life has been spent trying to prove herself, yet the world seems to look past her. Her recent attempt to secure a permanent position at the institute had been another failure, despite her tireless efforts. Once again, she found herself in the same position, rejected, overlooked, left to fight for recognition while others sailed smoothly to the top. The rejection stings more this time. She had hoped, just for once, that her hard work would be enough, that her dedication and qualifications would finally speak for themselves. But no, once again, she had been told she wasn't quite good enough, that she needed to improve before she could even be considered for a permanent position. Maybe I should just accept it, she thinks, her gaze falling to the pile of rejection letters on her desk. The weight of her own doubts presses on her chest. Maybe I don't belong in this world. But even as the thought crosses her mind, she shakes her head. Clara knows better than to give in to despair. She has always fought for her place in this world, for herself and for Lucas. Still, the struggle grows heavier with each passing year. The soft click of Lucas's keyboard pulls her back from her thoughts. She looks at him again, this time noticing the way his mind works. Quick, sharp, and unfettered by doubt. Clara can see it now, clearer than ever. He's not just playing a game. Lucas has the same spark of brilliance that she once had, before life and the expectations of the world had clouded her own vision. A flicker of hope stirs deep inside her. Perhaps Lucas could be the one to change everything. Perhaps, with his talents, he could be the one to crack the system that no one else could. Clara smiles, her heart swelling with pride, but there's still that quiet voice of uncertainty in the back of her mind. Maybe it's time to start believing in him, and in myself, she thinks. The phone rings, its shrill sound slicing through the quiet of the apartment. Clara jolts upright from the couch where she's been flipping through old files, her eyes tired from the late-night work. The clock on the wall ticks relentlessly, its hands inching toward midnight. She reaches for the phone, surprised at the late hour, and answers with a soft, hesitant hello. Clara, a voice crackles through the speaker. Dr. Arlen, the head of cybersecurity at the institute. His tone is unusually urgent, tight with tension. Clara, we need your son. Now. Clara's breath catches in her throat. She freezes for a moment, unsure if she heard him right. The request is so sudden, so out of place it doesn't immediately make sense to her. What, Lucas? She asks, still trying to wrap her mind around the call. Dr. Arlen's voice cracks through the phone line, thick with a mix of disbelief and desperation. We've tried everything, Clara. We need someone who can think differently, someone who can think like a child. The words hit her like a sudden punch. She stands up, pacing, trying to make sense of what he's saying. But Lucas is only 5. He's just a kid, she responds, her voice rising in uncertainty. The thought of her young son being thrown into something as serious as a system failure doesn't seem possible. This isn't a joke, Dr. Arlen insists, his voice now carrying an edge of urgency that Clara can't ignore. We need his help. The system's been under attack for hours. The experts have tried every possible fix, and none of them have worked. We need him, Clara. He's the only one who can crack it. Clara stands stock still, her heart racing, the weight of Dr. Arlen's words sinking in slowly. She feels as if the world has suddenly shifted on its axis, tilting in a way that leaves her off balance. Lucas? But he's just a child. He can't. We've heard rumors about your son, Dr. Arlen interrupts, his voice sharp now. We've heard what he can do. He solved a problem that stumped professionals in seconds. He's not like the others. Clara, we need someone who thinks outside the box, someone who sees things differently without the constraints of formal training. This is beyond us. It's beyond the experts. Clara stands still for a long moment, her mind reeling. The phone in her hand feels heavy, the words Dr. Arlen is saying almost impossible to believe. Her son, the child who has only recently started to explore the world of puzzles and games, is being called upon to fix a system under attack by some sophisticated force? She can feel the sudden, intense weight of the situation. She glances over at Lucas, fast asleep in his room, unaware of the crisis unfolding. The world around her feels like it's spinning faster, and she can't tell if this is an incredible opportunity or the start of a dangerous path for her son. Clara, Dr. Arlen's voice brings her back to the moment. We're running out of time. The system is collapsing. If we don't fix this, it could mean the end of everything we've worked for. This isn't just a job for us anymore. It's a race to save the Institute. And we need your son. Clara's thoughts are a whirlwind. She knows what Dr. Arlen is asking, but the weight of it feels too heavy to accept. What if Lucas can't handle it? What if he's not ready for something this big? He's just a child, still learning how to tie his shoes, how to read, how to navigate the simple challenges of a young life. But then, Clara remembers. She remembers Lucas's uncanny ability to solve puzzles, his natural curiosity and ease with technology. He's always been different, always seen patterns where others saw chaos. Could it be that he is the one to fix this? Could her son, the child of a janitor, really hold the key to something this monumental? A chill runs down her spine as she considers the possibility. There's no turning back now. This could be an incredible chance for Lucas, a moment where his talent could shine on a grand stage. Or it could be too much, a test that's far beyond what anyone his age should face. The silence stretches between them, and Clara feels the pull of two realities. The life she had envisioned for her son, where he could grow up in peace, without the pressure of the world's expectations, and the life now being thrust upon him, a life where his mind, his talent, is being sought out by the very institute that once looked down on him. Finally, Clara speaks, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'll bring him." Dr. Arlen's relief is palpable on the other end of the line. "Thank you, Clara. We'll be waiting. Bring him as soon as you can." She hangs up the phone, her hands shaking. She looks toward Lucas's room, her heart heavy with both pride and fear. For the first time, she sees the path ahead clearly. The world isn't going to let Lucas stay just a child. It's going to demand more from him, and she's not sure if he's ready for the weight of it all. But there's no turning back now. The door to the unknown is open, and her son is stepping into a world where everything he's ever known will be tested. The journey ahead may be dangerous, but it's one they will face together. As Clara walks towards the institute, Lucas in tow, an uneasy tension hangs between them. Her steps are slower than usual, hesitant, as though each one brings her closer to a decision she isn't sure she's ready to make. She glances down at her son, his small hand grasping hers with the trust only a child could have, and she wonders if she's doing the right thing. The weight of the situation presses down on her, heavier than any of the countless experiments and reports she's handled in her career. The idea of her young son, still so innocent, so full of potential, being thrust into a high-stakes crisis like this feels wrong. Her mind races with doubt. Is this fair to him? Could she be exploiting his natural talent for her own benefit? Is it right to push him into a world so full of competition and danger when he's still just a kid, trying to make sense of his own place in it? Clara tries to silence these thoughts, but they echo louder with each step they take towards the towering building. "Lucas," Clara says softly, her voice tinged with both concern and determination. She stops for a moment, gently adjusting his jacket as her hands tremble ever so slightly. "I need you to listen to me, okay?" Lucas looks up at her, his big, trusting eyes meeting hers with unwavering confidence. It's a look she's seen many times before, the same one he gives when he's solving a puzzle or working through a problem. "This is serious," Clara continues, her words heavy with the weight of the moment. "You're going to meet a lot of people who might not understand you. They might doubt you and it might be hard. But just remember one thing, no matter what happens, you've always got your mom." Lucas nods slowly, his face softening with a quiet understanding. His response is calm, surprisingly mature for someone his age. "I know, Mom. I can do it." Clara's heart swells with pride, but it's accompanied by a deep, lingering sense of fear. Her son's words are reassuring, but she knows this isn't a simple task. The pressure is immense, and the expectations placed on him are far too high for someone so young. Clara takes a deep breath, trying to quell the growing unease within her. As they walk through the sleek, sterile hallways of the institute, Clara feels like an outsider in a world that has long since dismissed her. The walls, lined with cold metal and glass, seem to close in on her. The hum of the advanced technology surrounding them only amplifies the sense of isolation she feels. She can't help but feel like a small fish in a vast, unforgiving ocean. But Lucas, with his wide-eyed curiosity, seems completely unfazed. His small steps echo in the otherwise quiet hall, and Clara notices that he walks with an air of quiet confidence, almost as if he belongs here, among the experts and the scholars. Her chest tightens as they approach the terminal, where a group of seasoned professionals stand gathered, their faces etched with exhaustion and skepticism. "Clara," Dr. Morrow, one of the lead experts, says, his voice low but firm. "Are you sure about this? A child?" Clara feels the heat rise to her cheeks. The question isn't just about Lucas. It's about her, too. The implication is clear: this is absurd. How could she, a single mother with no real standing in the institute, bring a 5-year-old into the heart of this crisis? She knows the answer they expect. It's impossible. But deep down, Clara knows something they don't. "I've seen him work," Clara replies, her voice steadier than she feels, her gaze never wavering from Dr. Morrow. "If anyone can crack this bug, it's him." There's a moment of silence, and Clara can feel the weight of their disbelief in the room. The experts exchange uncertain glances, murmurs of doubt slipping between them. Some shake their heads, while others glance at the terminal, clearly unsure whether they should even allow a child to touch the system. Lucas, completely unfazed by the skepticism in the room, steps forward. His tiny fingers hover over the keyboard as he takes in the intimidating screen before him. The room falls deathly silent, every pair of eyes now on him. It's almost as if the entire institute is holding its breath, waiting for him to fail. Clara's heart races in her chest. The knot in her stomach tightens, and she instinctively holds her breath as Lucas's small fingers begin to type. Every click of the keys feels like a drumbeat echoing through her entire body. She watches as her son, oblivious to the gravity of the moment, moves swiftly through the code, his face expressionless, focused entirely on the task at hand. As he works, Clara can't help but wonder. What if this is too much for him? What if he isn't ready? The pressure is immense. These experts have been working on this for hours, yet they've failed where Lucas is about to succeed. The room is filled with anticipation. Every second, every movement is amplified. And Clara, standing on the periphery, can only watch, feeling her own doubts creeping back in. "Come on, Lucas," Clara whispers to herself, her voice barely audible as it cracks under the weight of the moment. She can feel her heart racing in her chest, each beat louder than the last, as the seconds stretch into eternity. Her eyes are fixed on her son, watching intently as his small fingers dance across the keys with an ease and confidence that belies his age. The room feels suffocating, the air thick with a sense of expectation that weighs down on her. Lucas's movements are almost fluid, as if the computer were an extension of himself, each tap of his tiny fingers a stroke of genius. Clara barely dares to blink, afraid that if she does, the moment will slip away, and her son will somehow fail in front of everyone. She's seen Lucas solve puzzles at home before, his concentration unwavering, his mind a whirlwind of logic and patterns that seem to come naturally to him. But this is different. This is not just a game. This is real. The world is watching, and so much is riding on him. The system glitch that had stumped the best minds in the field for hours, a bug that had defied every expert, begins to clear. The error messages on the screen begin to vanish, one by one, as Lucas types effortlessly, his eyes never leaving the screen. Clara feels a strange sense of pride and anxiety bubble up inside her, a cocktail of emotions that she can barely process. She's amazed, terrified, and overwhelmed all at once. And then, just like that, within mere seconds, the screen flashes green, signaling success. A moment of silence falls over the room as the experts stare at the screen in disbelief. Clara's breath catches in her throat as she finally dares to exhale. Lucas doesn't even look up from the screen. He doesn't seem to understand the magnitude of what he's just done. He's simply completed another puzzle, like he always does. But to Clara, it feels like the world has shifted, and her son has just proven to everyone that talent doesn't need a title. It doesn't need a degree. It just needs belief and opportunity. He did it. He actually did it. Dr. Arlen's voice cuts through the silence, and his words hang in the air, filled with astonishment. The sound of disbelief ripples through the room like a wave. The experts, who had been stuck in their own mental boxes for hours, who had tried every possible solution, are stunned into silence. Some of them can't even hide their shock. Others are left speechless, their faces pale, as if they can't quite grasp what just happened. Clara stands frozen, her feet planted firmly in place as her eyes move from the computer screen to her son. She watches him for a long moment, trying to process what just occurred, and then it hits her. This is not just any child, this is her son. His grin, pure and innocent, spreads across his face as he looks up at her. It's the same grin he wore when he solved his favorite puzzle at home, the one she'd never quite understood but always praised him for. In this moment, Clara sees not just a boy, but a genius, a prodigy in the most unexpected form. For a brief moment, the weight of the world seems to fade away. The room around them, filled with highly qualified experts, their skepticism, their doubts, all of it seems distant. All Clara can see is her boy, the one who has always been underestimated, proving that he's capable of so much more than anyone could ever imagine. She feels a rush of love, pride, and relief flood through her chest. She realizes, for the first time in what feels like forever, that she's not alone in this fight. Lucas, her little boy, has just done something extraordinary. Dr. Arlen's voice calls her back to reality, but the disbelief lingers in the room. This is impossible, he mutters under his breath, shaking his head as though trying to comprehend the situation. Clara's heart swells as she looks at Lucas. In that moment, nothing else matters. The failure of the Institute's experts, the judgments they passed on her, none of it matters. Her son has just cracked the code, literally and figuratively, and no one can take that away from him. And yet, as she watches Lucas, still engrossed in his victory, she feels a sense of unease settle into the pit of her stomach. This moment is a triumph, yes, but it's also the beginning of something bigger. Something that neither she nor Lucas can fully comprehend just yet. For now, though, Clara is content to bask in the warmth of his success, knowing that whatever comes next, her son is destined for greatness. As Lucas's name spreads through the Institute, it doesn't take long for a subtle undercurrent of jealousy to start simmering among the experts. The once skeptical voices now speak in hushed tones, their words tinged with disbelief and a growing sense of threat. Dr. Morrow, the senior systems analyst who had dismissed the idea of bringing a child into such a high-pressure situation, watches with a furrowed brow as Lucas continues to receive praise for solving the bug that had stumped the Institute's brightest minds. At first, Morrow had been the first to argue against the idea, to dismiss the notion that a child, any child, could possibly have the mental fortitude to understand the complexities of the system. Now, he is forced to confront a reality that undermines everything he's believed in. A 5-year-old boy has just done what decades of expertise couldn't. The experts whisper among themselves, unsure of how to handle the situation. Some are quietly questioning their own methods, wondering if they too had missed something simple. Others are trying to rationalize what just happened, spinning their own theories in an attempt to maintain their credibility. One by one, they cast furtive glances toward the boy, his small frame still standing proudly before the terminal. Their gaze lingers, a mix of awe, confusion, and, most troubling of all, resentment. Lucas doesn't seem to notice, but Clara feels the shift in the air as she stands behind him. She can sense the tension, but for a moment, she remains focused on her son's innocent grin, unaware of the storm brewing around them. But the true conflict begins not within the technical team, but within the leadership of the Institute. Director Ramsey, who had been somewhat out of the loop during the initial crisis, is now painfully aware of the disruption Lucas has caused. As word spreads about the boy's effortless success, Ramsey begins to realize that the situation has gotten out of hand. In his mind, the idea of a janitor's son, someone with no qualifications, no pedigree, becoming the center of attention is unacceptable. It threatens not just the Institute's pride, but also his own position at the helm. Ramsey is a man who thrives on control, who has carefully navigated his way to the top by making calculated decisions and surrounding himself with people he trusts. He had long prided himself on being able to steer the Institute through crises and challenges. But this was different. This was something he couldn't have predicted. And what gnaws at him the most is that he feels a deep sense of insecurity, a fear that Lucas's success is undermining everything he's worked for. Behind closed doors, Ramsey calls Dr. Morrow into his office. The blinds are drawn, the air is thick with tension, and the low hum of the fluorescent lights above them only adds to the uneasy atmosphere. Morrow stands by the door, his face tight, aware of the pressure building within Ramsey's office. The director's usual calm demeanor is nowhere to be found. Instead, his frustration is palpable. "This is a one-off," Ramsey says, his voice clipped and controlled, but his words carry an undercurrent of something darker. He turns to face Morrow, his brow furrowed. We can't allow this to become the norm. If word gets out that a child, someone with no formal qualifications, can just walk in and fix what we couldn't, it will shake the very foundation of this institute. Dr. Morrow shifts uncomfortably, his hands clenched behind his back. He doesn't fully agree with the director's stance, but knows better than to question him openly. But, Director, we can't deny the results. The boy solved it in seconds. Ramsey scoffs, pacing the floor. Results, yes, but at what cost? If we start allowing anyone, no matter their background or age, to come in and fix our systems, what happens to the reputation of this institute? What happens to us? He pauses, his eyes narrowing as he glares at Morrow. We've spent years building this place up, and one child, no matter how clever, could tear it all down. The world will start thinking this is easy, that anyone can do it. That's not the message we want to send. Morrow doesn't respond immediately. He understands the director's concerns, but something about Ramsey's words feels off to him. You're saying we need to keep Lucas away from future projects? He asks carefully, knowing it's a dangerous question to ask. Ramsey stops pacing, his face darkening. No, he says slowly. I'm saying we need to control the narrative. We cannot allow this to become a trend. We need to make sure people know it was a fluke, a one-time anomaly. If word gets out that a janitor's son fixed what we couldn't, it undermines everything we've worked for. Our credibility, our funding, everything. The conversation shifts as Ramsey leans over his desk, his tone turning more conspiratorial. I'm not saying the kid is useless, Morrow, but this is not about him. It's about us. We've built something here that demands respect. We cannot allow a single incident to destroy it. Make sure Lucas's success doesn't become something bigger than it is. We need to contain this. Morrow nods, though his unease grows. Ramsey's desire for control is becoming more apparent, and it's clear that he will go to great lengths to protect his own position. Morrow can't help but wonder if there's more at stake here than just the Institute's reputation. Back in the main lab, as the news of Lucas's success continues to ripple through the Institute, Clara begins to feel the pressure of what's to come. The whispers in the hallways aren't just about her son's achievement anymore. They're about the system, about the legacy of the Institute, and about the hierarchy that Clara is now all too aware of. She's proud of Lucas, but she's starting to realize that the very thing that made him special, his innocence, his untainted brilliance, is the same thing that might lead to his downfall in a world where credentials mean everything. The atmosphere at the Institute has shifted dramatically. Lucas, the 5-year-old genius, is no longer just the boy who solved a bug no one else could. He's become the talk of the town, a phenomenon that no one expected. The once dismissive experts who had laughed at the idea of a child entering such a high-pressure environment are now scrambling to understand how he did it. They watch him with a mixture of awe and envy, unsure of how to process his effortless success. As Lucas is invited to more and more meetings with top-tier engineers, Clara begins to feel a sense of pride mixed with an undercurrent of concern. She stands quietly in the background, watching as her son seamlessly integrates into a world that is far beyond his years. The senior researchers, men and women who had spent decades building their careers, now seek out Lucas's input on their work. They're baffled by his calm confidence, the way he tackles complex problems with ease. Despite her internal conflict, Clara can't help but smile at the sight of her son, working alongside some of the brightest minds in the world. He solves complex puzzles in minutes, fixes system glitches that have stumped the experts for hours, and even assists with debugging on larger projects. His tiny fingers fly across the keyboard, his concentration absolute. Every task he tackles is met with success, and his solutions often leave the researchers speechless. One afternoon, Clara watches as Lucas is asked to assist in a large-scale project, one that involves revamping the Institute's entire communication system. The researchers are perplexed by a bottleneck in the system's data flow, and they've tried everything to solve it, but nothing works. Lucas, however, steps in with a quiet confidence, his young face serious as he examines the code. He hums to himself, making adjustments to the system, and within minutes, the issue is resolved. The senior engineers look on, their mouths agape, struggling to comprehend how a child could solve a problem that had baffled their best minds. "How did you do it?" one of the researchers asks, his voice filled with disbelief. Lucas shrugs, looking up at him with innocent eyes. "I just fixed it," he says nonchalantly. Clara's heart swells with pride, but a twinge of unease follows quickly. Watching her son work alongside these experts is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. She never imagined this is how things would unfold. Lucas, a child, outshining seasoned professionals who had been at the institute for years. He's a genius, yes, but how much of this is too much for him to handle? What is it doing to him, to his childhood? At night, when they return to their modest apartment, Lucas sits in front of his small computer, still working. Clara can't help but watch him, her worry growing. He seems so unaffected by the chaos of the institute, so eager to keep solving problems. It's almost as if he thrives on the pressure, but Clara knows that it isn't normal for a child to be in such a high-stakes environment. She thought she was doing the right thing by bringing him into the institute, but now she's unsure. Is this what he really needs? Lucas, she says one evening as he focuses on his screen, are you okay with all of this? With all the people watching you, expecting you to fix everything? Lucas looks up from his screen, blinking in confusion. I'm okay, Mom, he says with a grin, his expression one of pure innocence. I'm just solving problems. Clara smiles but feels a pang of concern deep in her chest. She knows that Lucas doesn't fully understand the pressure he's under. Not yet. He's just a child, after all, and he sees the world in a way that's simple and straightforward. To him, fixing the computer or solving a puzzle is just what he does. It's fun, it's easy, and it's how he's wired. But Clara knows better. She's seen the way people treat him now, as if he's something more than just a boy. The experts at the institute no longer see him as a child. To them, Lucas is a tool, a solution to their problems, a prodigy who can make them all look better. She's seen the way they look at him, how they try to pick his brain, eager to use his genius for their own goals. Some researchers offer him gifts, others flatter him with praise, all in hopes of aligning themselves with his success. Lucas, however, seems oblivious to their motives. He's just too focused on the task at hand, too absorbed in his own little world of problem-solving to notice the subtle undercurrents of exploitation swirling around him. But Clara notices. She can see how Lucas is treated differently now. He's not just a brilliant child. He's a symbol of hope for the institute, a representation of the next great leap in technology. And that weight is starting to build on him, even if he doesn't fully understand it yet. As Lucas's reputation grows, so does the pressure on him. More and more people seek him out, asking him for help with their projects, hoping to catch a glimpse of the magic that has made him the most talked-about child in the field. And Clara watches, heart heavy, as her son becomes more and more distant. Not emotionally distant, but removed from the world of childhood. He's no longer just a boy playing with puzzles. He's the solution to every problem, the miracle worker everyone has been waiting for. It's only a matter of time before Lucas begins to feel the weight of this newfound identity, the weight of being seen as something more than a child, a symbol, a tool, prodigy. And Clara knows that when that happens, everything will change. But for now, she holds onto the hope that Lucas is still the same innocent, brilliant boy she's always known. The boy who just likes solving problems. As Lucas's reputation continues to spread throughout the institute, so does the pressure. More and more experts, engineers, and researchers seek him out, eager to get a piece of his brilliance. Lucas, completely unaware of the growing weight of their expectations, dives deeper into his work. He continues to solve problems with the same ease that he always has, but as he becomes more involved with the institute, he starts to realize that not everyone sees him the way his mother does. At first, the researchers approach him with awe, treating him as a miracle child. They are fascinated by his ability to intuitively solve problems that even the most experienced minds cannot. But gradually, the tone shifts. The praise becomes more insistent, more demanding. It's no longer about admiring his abilities. It's about extracting as much from him as possible. The researchers don't just want to see what Lucas can do. They want to harness his brilliance to advance their own careers and secure the institute's future. To them, Lucas has become more than just a child. He's become a valuable asset. Lucas starts to feel this change in the way people interact with him. He's invited to high-level meetings, not as a participant, but as a tool, an object of fascination that can help them complete their work faster, more efficiently, more successfully. The older researchers, once skeptical of his abilities, now crowd around him, eager to hear his thoughts on their projects. They ask him to look over their work, to provide insights, and to give solutions. Some even bring him small gifts, hoping to win his favor and gain access to his mind. But Lucas doesn't seem to understand the reasons behind these gestures. To him, it's just another part of the work, another problem to solve. He doesn't recognize that he's being used. He's still just a boy, still only 5 years old, and to him, helping others is simply what he does best. But Clara notices the shift. She sees the way researchers linger around Lucas, how they try to engage him in conversations that are far beyond his years. They want to know what makes him tick, what drives him, and most importantly, what he can offer them. One afternoon, Clara watches as Lucas is approached by Dr. Morrow, one of the senior researchers, who has been particularly insistent on using him to solve one of his pet projects. Dr. Morrow smiles down at Lucas, his tone overly friendly, almost patronizing. "Lucas," he says, "I've been working on a system upgrade that's going to revolutionize our entire communication network. I could really use your input. Could you take a look at this?" He hands Lucas a tablet displaying a complex set of equations and algorithms. Lucas looks at the screen, tilting his head slightly, his young mind already processing the patterns. "Sure," he says with a grin, his fingers flying over the tablet as he starts making adjustments to the equations. Clara watches from a distance, a sense of discomfort washing over her. It's not that she doesn't want her son to succeed, but she can't help but feel that something is off. These researchers are asking so much of him, treating him like an expert when he's still a child. She can't help but wonder if this is the right environment for him. Is this really the life she wants for him? To be a tool, a prodigy to be used and discarded when they're done with him? Her thoughts are interrupted as Lucas looks up at Dr. Morrow, his face lighting up with excitement. "I fixed it," he announces proudly, showing Dr. Morrow the updated equations. The older man nods, impressed, but Clara notices the way his eyes gleam, not with genuine admiration for Lucas's abilities, but with the gleam of someone who sees an opportunity. "Great work, Lucas," Dr. Morrow says, his smile wide but calculating. "You're really something special." Lucas beams at the praise, but Clara feels a sharp pang of worry. This isn't what she envisioned for her son. She doesn't want him to grow up as an object of fascination, someone constantly expected to perform, constantly under pressure. Yet, here he is, working harder and harder with each passing day, while the adults around him are more than happy to let him carry the weight of their expectations. That night, Clara sits beside Lucas at their small apartment, watching him work on his own computer. He's solving puzzles as usual, but this time his focus seems different. There's something more intense about it, something that wasn't there before. Clara feels a lump form in her throat as she watches him, and she can't shake the feeling that he's no longer just her little boy. The world has changed him, and it's changing her, too. "Lucas," she says softly, her voice trembling with the weight of her question. "Can you handle this?" Lucas looks up at her, his eyes wide and trusting, as if her question doesn't even make sense. "I'm okay, Mom," he says with a grin, as though it's the simplest thing in the world. "I'm just solving problems." Clara smiles at him, but the smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. She wants to believe him. She wants to believe that her son is still the carefree, innocent child he was before all of this. But deep down, she knows the truth. This world, this pressure, is starting to take its toll on him. It's starting to take its toll on her, too. Meanwhile, Director Ramsey, who has been trying to downplay Lucas's success, finds himself increasingly frustrated. His attempts to suppress the hype surrounding the boy's achievements only seem to make things worse. The more Ramsey tries to contain Lucas's reputation, the more it spreads. Soon, media outlets are buzzing with stories about the child prodigy who has stunned the world's top engineers. The pressure on Lucas becomes even greater as his fame grows, and Clara feels trapped between the pride she feels for her son's accomplishments and the overwhelming fear of what this might do to him. As Lucas's name continues to circulate, so does the burden. Researchers are no longer just interested in his talent. They want to shape him, mold him into something that will benefit their own careers. They forget that he's just a child. They forget that, for all his brilliance, Lucas is still learning how to be a kid. And as the days pass, Clara watches, helpless, as Lucas's innocence begins to slip away. The boy who once loved solving puzzles for fun is now a symbol of hope and pressure, an icon in the making. But Clara isn't sure if the world is ready for what Lucas has to offer, or if he's ready for it. Just when it seems like Lucas is on top of the world, everything begins to shift. The praise, the admiration, the awe, all of it starts to feel different. There's a subtle tension in the air now, a shift in the way people treat Lucas, especially from those who had once doubted him. Dr. Morrow, the senior researcher who had been at the forefront of the team, begins to grow increasingly jealous. At first, the whispers are barely noticeable, but they soon start to spread like a cancer beneath the surface. Dr. Morrow, driven by his insecurities, begins to sabotage Lucas's work behind the scenes. He starts by subtly pushing for more control over the projects Lucas is involved in. Where Lucas's genius once led the way, Dr. Morrow now insists on overseeing every step of the process. He insists that Lucas work under his guidance, gradually diluting the boys' contributions, overshadowing them with the expertise of the senior researchers. As the days pass, Dr. Morrow spreads rumors about Lucas's success. It was just luck, he whispers to anyone who will listen, undermining Lucas's accomplishments. He suggests that the Institute's team, not the boy, had solved the system bug, diminishing Lucas's role in the breakthrough. The seed of doubt begins to sprout, taking root in the minds of those who had once championed Lucas's talent. Clara senses the change in the air, but she can't quite put her finger on it until one day, in a meeting with Dr. Morrow, it becomes all too clear. "Clara," Dr. Morrow says, his tone condescending yet carefully measured, "your son is talented, there's no doubt about that, but you must understand, this is still an institution built on years of expertise and reputation. We can't let a child, no matter how brilliant, disrupt what we've worked so hard to build. Lucas is still a liability." Clara feels the sting of his words. They're not just about Lucas anymore, they're about her too. She's standing in the way of their carefully crafted world, a world that has no place for someone like Lucas, a child with no formal education, no credentials, nothing that qualifies him to take center stage. She stands firm, her eyes narrowing with resolve. "Lucas did something no one else could," she replies, her voice steady despite the rising anger inside her. "His abilities shouldn't be diminished because he's young. You can't dismiss what he's accomplished just because you don't want to acknowledge it." Dr. Morrow shifts uncomfortably, but his expression hardens. "I'm not dismissing his abilities, Clara. I'm just saying we can't let one lucky break define everything. This is an institution that thrives on expertise and proven methods. It's not a place for whimsy. We cannot afford to be seen as a place that elevates children to the level of professionals." Clara feels her stomach tighten as his words hang in the air. She knows what this is. It's not about Lucas's ability. It's about control. The more Lucas shines, the more he challenges the very foundation of what these experts have spent years building. They're not just threatened by his talent. They're threatened by the idea that someone like Lucas, someone with no formal training, could come in and accomplish what they couldn't. It becomes clear to Clara now, Lucas's success is creating enemies. The same people who had once applauded him are now doing everything in their power to overshadow him. She can feel the weight of the situation bearing down on her son, and it hurts in a way she can't explain. The turning point comes swiftly like a punch to the gut. The Institute is attacked again, this time by a more sophisticated, more complex threat. The system faces a new set of vulnerabilities, and the pressure to fix it in time becomes overwhelming. The stakes are higher than ever. It's no longer about just solving a simple bug. It's about the survival of the Institute's reputation, and the people within it are desperate to prove their worth. The team, now reliant on Lucas, begins to crack under the pressure. Clara watches as Lucas is pulled into another high-stakes meeting, surrounded by researchers who are clearly at their wits' end. They're looking to him, their faces a mix of desperation and hope, and Clara feels a heavy weight settle in her chest. This isn't just about a boy solving a puzzle anymore. It's about an entire institution hinging on his success. The pressure is suffocating, and Clara can see it starting to take its toll on Lucas. For the first time, she notices the strain in his eyes, the subtle way his shoulders sag after a long day of work, the way his usual enthusiasm seems to be fading. He's still solving problems, still fixing systems, but the joy he once found in it seems to be slipping away. That night, as Clara tucks him into bed, she watches him closely. His face, usually bright with curiosity, now looks tired, worn. She can see it in the way he holds his body, in the way he moves through the world. He's feeling the weight of it all, the weight of being the golden child, the prodigy who's expected to save the day. "Lucas," Clara says softly, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Can you handle this? All the pressure, the expectations. Are you okay?" Lucas looks up at her, his eyes wide with the same innocence they've always had. "I'm okay, Mom," he replies with a tired grin. though there's a hint of something else in his voice, something that Clara can't quite place. I'm just solving problems. But Clara isn't so sure anymore. She kisses his forehead and pulls the blanket tighter around him, her heart heavy with the weight of the realization that her son is no longer just a boy playing with puzzles. He's a tool in a world that doesn't understand the innocence and joy he once had, and she's terrified of what it might do to him in the long run. The pressure is suffocating now. Clara can feel it in the air, a heavy weight that presses down on her and Lucas with each passing day. What had once been a thrilling adventure of discovery and success has morphed into something darker, something more intense, more demanding. One afternoon, Clara is called into Director Ramsey's office. The door clicks shut behind her, and she takes a seat, her nerves already on edge. Ramsey sits behind his desk, his posture stiff and controlled, as usual. But today, there's a coldness in his eyes that makes Clara's heart skip a beat. Clara, he begins, his voice sharp, we need results. The Institute's future depends on it. Lucas might have solved the first issue, but this is bigger. The system has been attacked again, and the stakes are much higher this time. This isn't some child's game anymore. Clara's stomach tightens as she listens. She's heard the pressure in the air for days now, but hearing it from Ramsey's mouth makes it all the more real. His words hang in the room, suffocating her. He's not invincible, Clara. Ramsey continues, his eyes narrowing. Lucas is talented, but this is a real test. If we fail this time, we lose everything. You understand that, don't you? Clara swallows hard, the weight of his words crashing down on her. She had always known the risks, but hearing them laid out so bluntly makes it feel like she's standing on the edge of a cliff, with nothing to hold on to. The future she had once envisioned for Lucas, a future where he would be celebrated for his brilliance, now feels tainted by the doubts and competition swirling around him. Ramsey's words echo in her mind, and she can't shake the feeling that Lucas is being set up to fail, no matter how hard he works. As Clara leaves Ramsey's office, her mind is clouded with doubt. She knows that Lucas's genius isn't just a stroke of luck. She's seen it firsthand, how he effortlessly solves complex problems, how his mind works in ways that no one else's can. But now, as the pressure intensifies, she begins to worry. What if they're asking too much of him? What if the world isn't ready to let a child like him shine without tearing him apart? Meanwhile, Lucas is feeling the strain more than anyone realizes. The carefree days when he was simply solving puzzles in his room seem like a distant memory. Now, every problem he tackles is met with mounting expectations. The excitement of success has been replaced by stress and anxiety. Clara watches her son more closely now, noticing the subtle signs of his withdrawal. The boy who once ran to her with excitement after solving a problem now barely speaks after finishing his work. His shoulders are often hunched, his gaze distant, and she can see the exhaustion settling in his eyes. Lucas, Clara asks one evening, her voice tentative, are you okay? You've been so quiet lately. Lucas looks up from his computer, his small face weary. I'm fine, Mom, he replies, but there's a weight in his voice that wasn't there before. Clara wants to believe him, but the silence between them is growing. The boy who once found joy in solving problems is now carrying a burden too heavy for someone his age. The atmosphere at the Institute continues to grow more toxic. Clara watches helplessly as Lucas's confidence begins to erode, bit by bit. He's not the carefree, curious boy he once was. Now he works under the constant shadow of pressure, surrounded by adults who see him as a tool, a means to an end. Dr. Morrow, who had once been one of the few researchers who acknowledged Lucas's potential, has now become one of his most vocal detractors. No longer content to simply question the boy's abilities, Morrow begins to actively undermine Lucas's work. Clara starts to notice the subtle shifts. Morrow suggests edits to Lucas's code, reworking sections that are already perfect, making them more complex, and removing the elegant simplicity that had initially impressed the team. At first, Clara assumes it's just part of the process. But as she watches Lucas's work slowly become muddied by Morrow's revisions, she realizes what's happening. Morrow is deliberately making Lucas's contributions seem less impressive, hiding his brilliance behind layers of unnecessary complexity. Clara is furious, but she doesn't know how to confront him. Her concerns are dismissed whenever she tries to speak up, and she feels increasingly isolated as the Institute's culture shifts toward exploiting Lucas for their own gains. One afternoon, after another long day of work, Lucas approaches her with a furrowed brow. He's holding a piece of code in his hands, clearly frustrated. "Mom," he says softly, "I don't understand. I fixed it, but now it's not working. I can't make it run the way I did before." Clara's heart sinks. She doesn't need to look at the code to know what has happened. Morrow has altered it, just as he's done with so many other aspects of Lucas's work. "It's okay, Lucas," she says gently, pulling him into a hug. "You're doing great. Don't let it get to you." But deep down, Clara feels the weight of the situation. How can she protect him when the very institution that should be nurturing him is turning against him? Things only get worse when Lucas overhears a conversation between two senior researchers. He had wandered into the hall to take a break, but the door to the conference room was slightly ajar. From where he stood, he could hear their voices clearly. "I still don't get it," one of them says. "How did a kid, a janitor's son, manage to solve the system bug that had us all stumped? It's got to be luck, right? Just a fluke." The other researcher laughs bitterly. "Yeah, maybe, but it's not like we can admit that. The kid's a distraction. We're all just trying to ride this out until the media attention dies down." Lucas freezes in place, his heart pounding in his chest. The words sting in ways he doesn't fully understand, but he knows enough to feel the hurt. They think he's just lucky. They think his brilliance was nothing more than a coincidence. And in that moment, he begins to doubt everything. Is that how they all see him? Was it all just a fluke? Clara finds him later that evening, sitting quietly at his desk, staring at his computer. The usual spark in his eyes is gone. She kneels beside him, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "Lucas, what's wrong?" she asks softly. He doesn't look up at her, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I'm good enough, Mom. They don't think I am. They said it was just luck." Her heart breaks as she hears the sadness in his voice, the uncertainty that has crept in. "Lucas," she begins, trying to find the right words. "What you did wasn't luck. It was your talent, your hard work. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." But Lucas's eyes are clouded with doubt. "If they don't believe in me, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not as good as they say." Clara's frustration rises. She wants to shield him from this, to protect him from the harsh realities of the world he's been thrust into. But she knows, deep down, that Lucas will have to fight this battle on his own. She just has to keep reminding him of his worth, of what he can accomplish when he trusts in himself. The tension at the Institute reaches a breaking point when Lucas is asked to present his work to the board of directors. The pressure is higher than ever, and Clara can feel the weight of expectations bearing down on her son. The board is full of powerful executives, all eager to see what Lucas has accomplished, to decide whether or not he is the future of the Institute. But when the time comes for Lucas to present, everything goes wrong. The moment he opens his laptop and begins to run his program, the system malfunctions. The code that had once run flawlessly now fails, stuttering and glitching before the board. Lucas tries to troubleshoot on the spot, but his mind goes blank. He stumbles, unable to explain what's happening, his once confident demeanor slipping away in front of the most important audience of his young life. The room is filled with awkward silence. Clara watches from the back of the room, her stomach churning as the experts exchange knowing glances. They don't need to say anything out loud. Their disapproval is written all over their faces. In that moment, Clara realizes the cruel truth. Lucas is no longer the boy they once admired. He is a symbol of everything that is wrong with the institution, a child thrust into an adult world, expected to deliver the impossible. Her heart sinks as Lucas falters for the first time in months, the weight of the world crashing down on him. Lucas sits alone in the Institute's conference room, the weight of the failure crashing down on him like a tidal wave. The room is silent except for the soft hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. His small frame, usually filled with energy and confidence, is now hunched, his shoulders heavy as he stares at the blank screen in front of him. For the first time, he feels small, insignificant, just a child who couldn't live up to the immense expectations placed on him. The energy that once seemed to flow from him effortlessly is gone, replaced by a crushing sense of doubt. The applause and praise he once received for his brilliance now feel like distant echoes, fading into the background of his mind. In its place is the realization that the world doesn't want a child who just solves problems. It wants perfection, results, and unwavering consistency. Lucas wonders if he's even capable of achieving that anymore. His heart sinks as he replays the events in his mind, the failed presentation, the stares from the board of directors, the harsh whispers of the experts behind his back. Every mistake, every falter, has been amplified, turning what was once a path to success into a trail of shattered dreams. He's no longer the wunderkind everyone admired. He's just a child who couldn't live up to the expectations that had been heaped upon him. Clara enters the room quietly, her heart heavy with sorrow. She's heard the whispers, felt the tension in the air, but seeing Lucas like this, broken and defeated, is more than she can bear. Her son, the boy who had once shown the world that age was no barrier to brilliance, now looks like a shell of himself. She walks over to him slowly, her steps heavy with the weight of the moment, and sits beside him. Without saying a word, she pulls him into her arms, enveloping him in a hug that speaks of love and understanding. The warmth of her embrace is the only thing that seems to give him any comfort in this moment of despair. "You're still my genius, Lucas," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "Nothing changes that. The world will see who you are, no matter how they treat you." Lucas doesn't respond at first. He simply rests his head against her shoulder, his small body trembling with quiet sobs. For a moment, he lets himself be vulnerable, letting the tears fall freely. The weight of everything, the pressure, the manipulation, the constant scrutiny, feels like too much for a 5-year-old to bear. He wishes he could just go back to being the boy who solved puzzles for fun, the boy who didn't have to carry the world on his shoulders. "But Mom," he whispers, his voice barely audible, "maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I'm not good enough." The words feel like a betrayal to himself, but they slip out before he can stop them. His confidence, once unshakable, has been shattered by the constant demands and the cruel manipulation that has surrounded him. He doesn't know if he has the strength to keep going. Clara's heart breaks as she hears his words. She pulls him closer, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. "You are Lucas. You always were. You're not meant to be anyone's tool or project. You're meant to change the world on your own terms." She tightens her embrace, wishing she could shield him from the pain, from the world that has failed him in so many ways. "This is just a moment, Lucas, a hard moment, but it doesn't define you." Lucas looks up at her, his tear-streaked face filled with doubt. "I don't know if I can do it anymore, Mom. Everything feels wrong. They want something I can't give." Clara wipes the tears from his face, her own eyes welling up with tears she refuses to shed in front of him. "I know, sweetheart, I know, but I believe in you. I always have and I always will. You're stronger than you know. Don't let this moment make you forget who you are." The weight of her words lingers in the air, but even Clara knows they can't erase the feeling of loss that has settled into the room. For the first time, she wonders if the world is too big for her son, too harsh, too unforgiving. The crisis at the Institute still looms large, and the reality is clear. If they fail again, there may be no coming back from it. There will be consequences not just for Lucas, but for all of them. But for now, in this moment, Clara and Lucas are left in the shadows of the institution they once believed in. The promises, the hopes, all seem like distant memories. The world outside is still turning, but for them, time has stopped, and the weight of everything feels unbearable. Clara holds him tighter, hoping that somehow, this moment of failure will pass. But as she holds her son, she knows one thing for sure: she will never stop fighting for him, no matter how lost they feel right now. Alone in their small apartment, the weight of the world feels more suffocating than ever. Clara watches her son, Lucas, sitting by the window, his small figure barely visible in the fading light of the evening. He's staring out into the distance, his eyes clouded with thoughts too heavy for someone so young. The silence in the room is deafening. For the first time, Clara feels a sense of deep uncertainty about their future. Lucas has always been strong, a force of nature, but now, she sees the cracks. At just 5 years old, he's been crushed by the weight of an entire institution's expectations, and it breaks her heart. He was never meant to carry this burden, yet somehow he's had to. She can't protect him from this, not from the jealousy, not from the manipulation, not from the world that demands too much of him. She walks over to him and kneels, wrapping her arms around him in a tight embrace. He doesn't resist, but Clara feels the distance between them, a quiet sorrow in his body that she can't fix. For a moment, she just holds him, feeling the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the steady rhythm of his breath. She wants to believe that her love can shield him, that her words can heal the pain. But tonight, She knows she can't protect him from the harshness of the world. The reality of their situation is far too real. I thought we were past this, Clara whispers to herself, tears threatening to fall as she watches her son. The pride she once felt for his genius now feels like a distant memory, overshadowed by the deep hurt in his eyes. Lucas looks up at her, his voice small but clear. Mom, I don't want to be like them. I want to be me. Clara's heart aches at his words, and for the first time, she realizes the depth of his struggle. It's not just about the pressure, the expectations, or the brilliant mind he's been given. It's about his need to be true to himself, to find his own path away from the world that has tried to mold him into something he's not. She nods slowly, understanding more than she ever has before. It's not about what the world wants from him, it's about what he wants for himself. And in that moment, Clara makes a silent promise to him. She will help him walk that path, no matter where it leads. With a newfound determination burning in his chest, Lucas makes a silent vow. He will no longer let others define him. The weight of doubt still presses down on him, suffocating at times, but his mother's words echo in his mind with a clarity that pierces through the noise. You're still my genius, Lucas. Nothing changes that. These words have settled deep within him, reigniting a spark he hadn't realized had dimmed. He now knows that this is about more than just proving his genius to others. It's about proving it to himself. The world might see him as a child prodigy, a fluke, or a lucky break, but Lucas knows better. He is not some accident of circumstance. He is more than what anyone has assumed him to be, more than just a boy solving problems that others can't. He is ready to show everyone, especially himself, that his brilliance is no accident. The pressure of it all is still there, and the doubts haven't completely disappeared. But as he stands in front of his computer, hands poised over the keyboard, Lucas feels something else, a quiet confidence beginning to bloom within him. He knows what he is capable of. He has always known. The only thing left now is to prove it, to prove that he is not just a child who got lucky once, but someone who deserves to stand alongside the best. And in this moment, he feels his resolve solidifying. No more doubt, no more fear. This is his time. The Institute's leadership, however, has called for one final showdown. The challenge has been laid down. Lucas must fix the system bug one last time, in front of the world's top tech experts. There will be no more hiding behind the curtain, no more avoiding the scrutiny of those who have dismissed him. This is the moment where he must prove himself, not just to the experts, but to the world. Clara feels a mix of pride and anxiety as she watches her son prepare. She can see the shift in him, the quiet, subtle change that has come over him in the last few days. His confidence, though fragile, is returning. She can see it in the way he stands, the way he walks into the room with a little more determination in his step. And though she still worries about the weight of the world on his shoulders, she knows this is what he needs. You've got this, Lucas, Clara tells him softly, her voice filled with both love and reassurance. Just be yourself. Show them who you are. Lucas looks up at her, his eyes meeting hers with a mix of fear and resolve. For the first time in days, he smiles, a smile that is all his own. Thanks, Mom. I will. The Institute's leadership, namely Director Ramsey and Dr. Morrow, remain skeptical. They've seen too much of what they consider Lucas's fluke success to believe in him fully. They continue to dismiss him as a child who doesn't belong in their world, a child who hasn't earned his place. They see him as a tool, a temporary solution to their problems, and nothing more. But Clara knows this moment isn't just about the system bug. It's about Lucas finding his own voice, finding the courage to stand tall in a world that has tried to place him in a box that doesn't fit. The day of the showdown arrives, and the team gathers around the terminal, preparing to witness the culmination of months of pressure, expectations, and doubts. The room is filled with nervous energy, every expert and technician aware that this is the moment that will define Lucas's future. Whether he succeeds or fails, this will be the one that sticks. Lucas steps forward, his small hands hovering over the keyboard. His heart races, the familiar sense of pressure returning as the eyes of the room settle on him. He can feel the weight of their expectations, but it doesn't feel as suffocating as before. This time, he isn't afraid. This time, he isn't going to let them see him as anything less than he truly is. He takes a deep breath, letting it steady him. He recalls the countless hours spent at home, coding away in the quiet of their apartment, teaching himself, learning from every mistake. He remembers the joy he felt as he cracked each puzzle, each system error, the sense of pride that came with every solution. This is his moment. This is where he shows the world, that his brilliance isn't a fluke. He isn't just a child who got lucky once. He's Lucas Wren, a genius in his own right, and no one can take that from him. With a final glance at his mother, who is standing just behind him, her eyes filled with hope and pride, Lucas begins to type. The tension in the room rises, but for the first time, it feels like it's not just about solving the bug. It's about something deeper, something more important. It's about standing tall, about proving to himself that he's more than just what others expect him to be. The room goes silent as Lucas's fingers tap the keys with fluid precision. The screen begins to change, lines of code flickering across it, and the experts in the room exchange glances. No one speaking, no one daring to breathe as they watch him work. Clara watches, her heart in her throat, knowing that no matter what happens next, her son is already a success. The countdown clock above the terminal ticks down, each second reverberating in the charged silence of the room. The atmosphere is suffocating, thick with anticipation and the pressure that weighs heavily on Lucas's young shoulders. Clara stands at his side, watching her son as he hunches over the keyboard, his small hands moving with the precision of someone far beyond his years. She can feel the tension building, tightening in her chest. This is it, the moment that will either validate all their struggles or tear it all down. Dr. Morrow stands at the back of the room, his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. He's convinced that Lucas won't be able to handle the pressure, that the boy's previous success was just a stroke of luck, a lucky break that could never be repeated. Morrow watches with a mixture of skepticism and quiet amusement, his eyes glinting as he waits for Lucas to falter. Director Ramsey watches from the sidelines, his brow raised in silent doubt. Despite the fact that Lucas had already solved the first bug and amazed the team, Ramsey still refuses to fully accept him. He's been critical of the boy since day one, seeing Lucas's rise as a challenge to the hierarchy of the institute. To Ramsey, Lucas is a child with no place in their world of hardened professionals, no business being in the same league as the experts. He leans against the wall, his eyes narrowing, watching the final moments with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Clara, on the other hand, is focused entirely on Lucas. She knows this is his moment. She knows that no matter what happens, her son has already proven more than anyone could have imagined. But the weight of the situation presses down on her. Will the world finally see him for who he is? Or will they continue to dismiss him as nothing more than a fluke? As the seconds tick away, Lucas's fingers fly over the keyboard, his concentration absolute. His face is serene, the pressure in the room only pushing him to focus more intently. Each line of code feels like another step toward proving not just his brilliance, but his place in the world. This is the moment that he's been waiting for, the one he needs to show that his genius is real, not some accident of fate or luck, but a product of his own talent and determination. The countdown clock hits its final 10 seconds, the room holding its breath. Lucas types the last few lines of code, his fingers moving fluidly as if this was just another puzzle to solve, another problem to tackle. Clara watches him, her heart pounding, her breath caught in her throat. The room is so quiet now that it feels as though the entire world is waiting for what comes next. With one final keystroke, Lucas presses enter. The screen flickers for a moment, the code running in the background, and then green light. The system is fixed. The bug is gone. A collective gasp fills the room as the countdown clock hits 0. For a moment, no one speaks. No one moves. The silence is deafening, but it's not the silence of failure. It's the silence of disbelief. Everyone is staring at the screen, trying to comprehend what they've just witnessed. Then, as if on cue, the room erupts into chaos. Researchers and engineers shout with excitement, some laughing, some still stunned, unable to process the reality that a 5-year-old boy has just solved a problem that had eluded them for hours. The energy in the room is electric. The tension evaporates into a flood of relief and exhilaration. Lucas has done it. Clara can hardly contain her emotions. Her eyes fill with tears as she watches her son, standing tall at the terminal. He doesn't smile right away, but his eyes gleam with something far more powerful: pride, satisfaction, and the quiet confidence of a child who has just proven to the world that he is more than they ever thought he could be. Clara places a hand on his shoulder, a mix of pride and relief flooding through her. "You did it, Lucas," she whispers, her voice choked with emotion. Her son, the boy who was once just the son of a janitor, has now rewritten his story. The world will never see him the same way again. But amidst the celebration, Director Ramsey's voice cuts through the noise, his words laced with the sharp edge of dismissal. "It was just luck," he mutters under his breath, unwilling to admit that Lucas's brilliance might just be real. His words are soft, but they're filled with contempt, as though even in this moment of victory, he cannot bring himself to acknowledge the boy's achievements. Dr. Morrow, who had spent the last few weeks undermining Lucas, keeps his distance, but his disapproving gaze is evident. He won't openly admit that Lucas has outshone him and the entire team, but the resentment in his eyes is clear. The boy's success doesn't fit into Morrow's carefully constructed narrative of what the Institute should be. Morrow, too, can't accept that someone like Lucas could be the one to fix what they had failed to. But in that moment, none of it matters. The skepticism of Ramsey, the jealousy of Morrow, none of it can take away what Lucas has achieved. The world can question him, doubt him, and try to diminish his victory, but Lucas has proven his worth. He has shown them all that he is not just a child who got lucky. He is a genius, and no one can take that away from him. As Lucas prepares to leave the room, his eyes meet Clara's. A silent exchange passes between them, one of understanding, pride, and the realization that, despite everything, they've won. They've faced the harsh judgments of the world together, and now, they walk away victorious as Lucas and Clara step out of the conference room. The air around them seems to shift. The hum of the Institute, once oppressive with the weight of judgment, now feels lighter, as if a veil has been lifted. Lucas, still unsure of the full impact of what he's just accomplished, walks with a quiet sense of pride. Clara stays close by his side, her hand resting gently on his shoulder, offering the comfort and support that has carried them both through this whirlwind of doubt and uncertainty. The room they just left is still buzzing with the aftermath of the monumental achievement. Experts and researchers are now scrambling to dissect the work Lucas has done, their whispers filled with awe and disbelief. But for Lucas and Clara, it no longer matters what they think. They've done it. Lucas has proved himself not just to the Institute but to the world. As they walk down the hallway, Clara notices the subtle shift in the way people look at them. Before, they were dismissed as nothing more than a mother and child with a brief moment of fame. Now people watch with admiration, respect, and even a touch of envy. Clara holds her head high, but she can't help but feel a strange mix of emotions. Part of her wants to bask in this victory, but another part of her knows this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Outside the Institute's cold walls, the world feels different. The air is fresh, the sky above seems a little brighter. Clara takes a deep breath, knowing that their journey hasn't been easy, but it's far from over. Lucas, who had once been the quiet boy at her side, has now emerged as a beacon of hope and possibility. The world is at his feet, and yet, Clara knows this is just one chapter in his story. What comes next, she can't predict, but she knows one thing for certain. Whatever happens, they'll face it together. As they step into the car, ready to leave the Institute behind, Clara's phone buzzes with a notification. She glances at it quickly, expecting the usual updates and messages from work, but what she sees takes her by surprise. The media is already buzzing with stories about Lucas. Headlines flash across her screen. 5-year-old prodigy fixes global tech bug. Is this the future of AI? The boy who saved the Institute, Lucas Wren's brilliant breakthrough. The genius of Lucas Wren, a child who outshone experts. Clara's heart skips a beat as she reads the headlines. It's happening faster than she anticipated. Lucas is no longer just a boy with an extraordinary gift. He's a symbol, a hero. And with that comes a new kind of pressure. The offers start flooding in. Tech companies want to work with him. Universities want to recruit him. The media wants interviews. The world is suddenly at his feet. But Clara knows this moment isn't just about the media buzz or the accolades. This moment is about what comes next. As they drive away from the Institute, she looks over at Lucas, who is staring out the window, his face calm and thoughtful. "Lucas," she says softly, her voice filled with emotion, "do you know what this means?" He turns to her, a small, knowing smile on his face. "Yeah, Mom, I know. It means I can do anything." Clara nods, her heart swelling with pride. "You always could, Lucas. You always could." As the car drives further away from the Institute, Clara looks ahead, her mind racing with the possibilities of what the future holds. But one thing is certain, the world will never see her son the same way again. Lucas Wren, the janitor's son, the child who was once dismissed as nothing more than an anomaly, has now become a symbol of the untapped potential that lies within the most unexpected places. The pressure is mounting, but Clara is ready. Together, they've overcome the odds, and no matter what challenges come next, she knows they will face them together, with the same love and determination that has carried them this far. Lucas is no longer just a genius. He's a symbol of hope, of perseverance, and of the power of believing in oneself, even when the world tells you that you're not enough. The world may have doubted him before, but now, they can only watch in awe as he takes his place among the greatest minds of his generation. And as Clara watches her son, she knows that this is just the beginning of his journey. The world may have tried to define him, but Lucas Wren will define himself. And whatever comes next, they'll walk that path together. In the final moments, we see Lucas and Clara standing together outside their humble apartment, the weight of everything they've experienced finally sinking in. The bright city skyline stretches in the distance, but for them, the world feels smaller now, more personal. The journey that began with doubt, rejection, and harsh criticism has culminated in triumph. Lucas, his youthful face glowing with pride, holds his first paycheck in his small hands. More money than any child his age could ever dream of. It's more than just a paycheck. It's a symbol of everything they've fought for, everything they've overcome. Clara gazes at him, her heart full. The tears that have been threatening to fall finally come, but they are tears of pride, of love, and of relief. "We did it, Lucas," she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "We really did it." Lucas looks up at her, his wide, infectious grin spreading across his face, the same grin that had once lit up his small room when he solved his first puzzle. "I told you, Mom," he says, his voice filled with a quiet confidence. "I can do anything." Clara's heart swells as she holds him close, feeling the weight of their journey, of their sacrifices, finally giving way to a new chapter. This is not just her victory, it's Lucas's, too. They've both overcome so much, and now they stand together in the glow of the future, a future full of promise. The world that once rejected them now sees them, and they've proved that it's not about where you come from, or who you're born to, it's about the power of belief, determination, and recognizing the potential within. In the distance, the buzz of the city continues, oblivious to the quiet victory that has taken place on the quiet street where Clara and Lucas stand. But for them, the world feels different now. The noise of the world no longer drowns them out, it only amplifies the possibilities ahead. The camera lingers on Lucas's face, his expression full of promise, his eyes bright with the future he's about to create. No longer just a boy with a broken computer or the janitor's son, Lucas is now a symbol of what's possible when you believe in yourself, even when the world doesn't. He's ready to change the world, one keystroke at a time. As the camera pulls back, the weight of their story is clear. Together, they have rewritten their fate, proving that the greatest power lies within the heart and mind of a child who dares to dream, and the mother who believes in him.